Welcome to the Real Estate Rundown. We have an update on a developing story. So remember the guy, Mike Chambers, that FSBO'd his own home in Colorado? Well, turns out he played us all. So this guy suddenly raises a private equity round and starts a company aimed at breaking real estate with AI called Ridley. And he has amassed so much press and so much publicity. Turns out Mike is a former marketing guy. And I just feel scammed. I feel like I felt when we realized that Josh Sitzer, the guy that started the Sitzer Burnett suit that crashed down the commission compensation rule. And then when he started landing at helping buyers buy without an agent, I feel like this guy is playing the entire industry and using us against each other.
Wow. Yeah. Well, realtors hate me. That was his handle, right?
Yes. Like who does that?
Someone that wants to rise up emotion and, because people, have beef with realtors, or they said they don't like realtors. So the realtors hate me is a very,
emotionally charged. He's like throwing rocks at the enemy, which is in this situation, it's the realtor, it's NAR. He made a lot of good points though, but
you don't just raise capital in a week. Because the guy's been doing this for a while. I mean, it takes months and months and months. So obviously, we got bamboozled, and this guy put out this all these videos, and now is all of a sudden has a big company that has institutional money.
Yeah.
I mean, people do that, right? They think about this and say, okay, what narrative could we spin in the industry to get the process started, right, for their own intentions, and then here's my plan.
So what's the company
And now the
again?
plan, I mean, unless it's just pure ironic, which is usually not the case.
Yes.
We now have discovered what the plan was, and it's unfolded itself.
Well, I feel bad that I was a part of it. So I actually got a little bit of hate in the DMs because of this. I had people that were messaging me going like, why are you giving this guy attention? And, I just thought it was an interesting story. He was documenting his whole process. What I thought was interesting was the Zillow kind of throw in, because he threw Zillow under the bus and said that they made a software update just for him because his listing wasn't being shown. I don't know. I played into it a little bit, but I remember the last podcast we talked about him, I had made a comment before and I was like, watch this guy has private equity and starts a new company to disrupt real estate, and sure enough he did. I think that they underestimate though how integral realtors are in the transaction. And I think that this gentleman, kudos to you if you can start something cool and it works and it's great. But what we all know is when it comes down to buying and selling, and which is typically the single most expensive asset that you own, folks don't want to go it alone, and they want that trusted, partner on their side to guide them.
They want a realtor to talk to and ask them questions and give them advice. So it's good. Definitely good. So what kind of company did you create? Is this like some it's AI company or something?
Yeah, it's some company, which, hey, let's be real. AI is transforming everything. I got a hold of an Operator account. I actually upgraded my subscription, and I got Operator with OpenAI. And one of the first things that I did was asked Operator, how can you help me do things in real estate that I can teach other real estate agents how to do? And so one of the first things it said was, well, I can help you comp properties. So I threw a property address into Operator, and it's fascinating. It actually pulls up a browser, and then you see Operator going to Zillow, you see it going to Redfin, you see it going to Realtor.com, you see it clicking through listings. It's really fascinating. And we actually got hung up on Zillow. So Operator, when it was on Zillow recognized it was a bot. And then Operator gave me the option to take back control of the browser and press and hold a button on Zillow's site until the bar filled up on the button, and it actually didn't work. And so because it didn't work, Zillow detected it was a bot. It started to go to another site. It went to Realtor.com, but it was just really fascinating to see AI take that approach and start comping that property. But then I tried it again last night on a different property, and operator was so lazy. It went to Zillow, and Zillow didn't detect that it was a bot, and it told me basically what my Zestimate was. And I was like, dude, you're lazy. If I wanted to know what my Zestimate was, I could have went on Zillow myself. Like, I want you to actually comp this property, like work harder. And so I did that. And then it opened up another browser, and it basically did the same thing. It went to Redfin, and it told me, here's Redfin's estimate of your house. And I'm like, okay, so there's still a lot of work to be done there.
I would imagine that all these sites are going to put bot things in there to where it won't allow a bot to scrape information, right? I mean, especially if they're information based, that's how they make their revenue. Because why would you want to allow that?
No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I mean, Zillow is paying millions and millions and millions of dollars for their data, and they've created this massive behemoth. So they're not going to allow a bot just to go in there and scrape the data and create another site where we're able to do comp properties really quickly by using their stuff.
Right.
Yeah, that's funny. Is that like the next battle? Is the
Yeah,
bots
right.
the bots versus the
bot
programming? Like how good is your programming / bot detection on your own site versus the people who write the programming for the bots? The battle of the bots.
It's scary. Well, so we've had a few bot attacks, if you will, at Zoodealio where, because these bots, they can absolutely just tank your site because the CPU usage is so high and they overload your servers. So that's happened here internally a couple times, and we've had to beef up security protocols for bot detection so that it wouldn't. Just
That's crazy.
Fascinating.
So what other things can operator do? I mean, for real estate agents, I don't know. What do you know besides comp properties? I mean, obviously that's a huge thing, but they could probably write descriptions, right? I mean, obviously
ChatGPT is already doing that. I think that when you think of operator, you think of something going onto the internet for you and taking actions that you would take on the internet. So could operator enter a listing for you in your MLS? Could operator post your listing link onto Facebook and share it into Facebook groups? Could operator then take your listing and share it to 25 of your Facebook friends? And then you could instruct it to
probably
go share
not,
it.
because Facebook's not going to want Microsoft doing that to their. I mean, that would.
But the interesting thing though with Facebook is also of the mindset of creating AI agents for all of their.
But they're going to want you to use their AI agents, not
true.
operator.
True. And those are some of the things that we're exploring to see, kind of like to test the limits of what it can do. But it can schedule deliveries. It can book you airline tickets. It can fill out forms on sites. So those sorts of things. In fact, there's some internal processes that we're trying to see if it's capable of handling.
It's fun.
I know, it's fascinating.
Technology's good.
Technology is getting good. Well, there's some new data from Opendoor. And Keith, I think you're going to like this.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so Opendoor essentially came out with results of a survey that they've recently completed. And what they've discovered is that first-time sellers, so people that are selling a home for the first time, are willing to give up to 20% of their equity for a certain and convenient home sale.
That's their own internal survey?
Yes.
Did they happen to say what the case study was? Was it 100 people,
1,000
people?
It was 1,000. And I feel like it's enough to, I was kind of looking at the statistical,
Wasn't it
info.
Wasn't it 65%, you said?
So it was 65%. Yes, that's what it was. Okay.
65% of them would be willing to give up 20%.
Yes, 65% of them would be willing to give up to 20% of their equity for that certain and convenient home sale.
Up to 20% or
Correct.
20%?
Up to 20%. So there's some words matter.
Yeah, so it could be 1% of those
are willing to give
20%, and then
Right.
the rest are giving it 14, 12, 5, that sort of thing.
Correct.
But didn't you? It wasn't. I think you remember you talking about Opendoor's margin. Right now is about 14%, and then if you add on their service fee and maybe a percent for repairs, that's about 20%.
It is. And that is absolutely the case. So I use Datador, which tracks all of the data for Opendoor, and Datador tracks their embedded margin month over month. And so in February, it was close to 15%. It was like 14 something, I believe.
And so they're really having to buy deep right now.
I was about to say, yeah, because wouldn't that be based on what they bought it for versus their resale price? I was like, they're really good at buying properties at the exact price if their margins that high, because that means that they're probably statistically taking price reductions, maybe even more than the average seller, in order to get it sold in a timely manner, unless they're sitting on these things forever,
Which they don't. No.
Yeah.
There's no way they can.
Well, I did it's like a quick little recap of Opendoor's performance last year, and they acquired nearly 15,000 homes, which is insane. I broke it down to every business day. That's like 60 houses a business day that they're purchasing.
Wow.
I mean, that's like operationally, like, can you imagine? That's a lot. They're buying a lot of houses. And so then I wanted to see, okay, well, what would a 20% discount look like on the median priced home across the US? And so I ran the math on that. And like, for instance, in Arizona, a 20% discount on a median priced home would be an $88,000 discount. So that's kind of a lot. In Florida, it would be 81,000. In California, it would be 159,000. So we'll kind of flash up this map so you can get a visual of where you're at and what sort of discount a seller is willing to accept for that certain convenient cash offer.
These are averages, right? So
yeah, it's just the median priced home. But it just gives you an idea. I think for me, it's like, it gets me thinking that, here was something else that Opendoor recently came out with in their shareholder report. So they said that 70% of all of their 2024 acquisitions were from sellers who accepted a refreshed offer. So they didn't accept the first offer. They accepted that refreshed offer.
Yeah, I was watching your coaching call yesterday, and that was really interesting to hear, because like with our members, I'm just telling them, like, you gotta stay in front of them. And I think that's why we created the home report, is to keep that offer continually in front of that homeowner. So when they're ready, because I mean, people click on things and like, oh yeah, what does this say? But Opendoor is really good at doing that, is sending that email, like going, hey, would you
want
like
a refreshed offer?
It
looks like it went up.
Yeah, it looks like your offer went up.
Click here and verify.
Yeah, let's see what's going on right now with your offer.
They're freaking good they've been good at it for a long time, right? Because when you submitted a property on behalf of a home seller as the realtor, right, they would just send that email / update to whoever's email was on file. And I used to click on it all the time.
Yeah.
Because then when it was higher, I would go make that call and be like, hey, you remember that, that cash offer that we talked about XYZ time ago? Hey, it looks like it went up, $20,000 or whatever the price was. So the one I'd like to break down that survey they did that says consumers are willing to take up to a 20% discount, because I think there's a lot of psychology behind that that's good for realtors to take into consideration when they're talking with home sellers. We all know, and I'm putting myself in this category, when you're taking a survey and somebody's asking you a question, majority of the time, right, when you're not on the line to make a decision, I'd go up to X, or I wouldn't do that. But we all know when it comes down to it and you have to make a decision, you have options in front of you, that 20% could turn into 22%, could turn into 30%. If it makes sense for whatever it is that you're in that particular moment. So I think that's probably a super legitimate survey, just getting people's mindset off the cuff. I don't know if these people were just random people. I don't know if these people who went through the program, maybe it was, because that could also, could have swayed that survey as well. I just know that when you're in talks with the home seller, yes, I think people have an understanding at some level, just like anything with certainty and convenience typically comes not always a discount, right? A cost, right? And the cost, that is the cost of, hey, I'll take a 20% discount, or I'll give you a 20% discount on my home for you to purchase at XYZ price. But then the other factor of it too is, are they really giving a discount at the end of the day?
Or is that just
Because-
really what the market
Right.
is?
If
Yeah.
they
Or
were to
a
go
cash
list,
offer is.
if
Yeah.
you were to go list and sell that house traditionally, whether they did it as a FSBO or they hired you as a realtor and you put it on, there's no guarantee. Nobody holds the crystal ball. We don't know what that thing's going to sell for, and what if the result's the same?
Yeah, because Opendoor does do a little bit of they obviously clean it up, and then it's going to look a lot different than with somebody living in it. So
For
if you try
sure.
to sell it with somebody living in it, the way they live in it, a lot of people live in their homes, compared to if they had sold it to Opendoor basically made sure it was cleaned, or even just brought in a cleaner to clean the baseboards and clean the bathrooms and clean it up.
I think that that's something we talked about last week. We were talking about maybe one of the things that surprises us about seeing the volume of homes that we get to see. And one of the things that surprises us is how many people have a lot of stuff. As we would maybe term them a hoarder.
How many hoarders are there?
I mean, no, but that is something that, just with massive empathy, because I know how hard it is to part away with things. It can be really tough. So I have a lot of empathy on that. But we see it a lot. We see a lot of like hoarder type situations.
Yeah, or just life just gets in the way, right?
And the average consumer probably does not take that into condition or the mindset when they're thinking about selling their house. When you own something yourself, as a car, or you're at a garage sale, you always put more value because it's yours. There's some type of attachment
Yes.
and or sentiment to it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you put more value toward it. So they probably don't look at these things. And so the main reason I'm bringing this up is those are things that you can bring up to the consumer when you're having those cash offer conversations or bringing alternative opportunities to them versus the traditional. Is some of the psychology behind it is saying, hey, we could list traditionally, here's some of the hurdles and pitfalls. If we were to take a cash offer, here's potentially what that looks like. Here's the benefits to it. And
I would say about
I think
90.
all those things should be took into consideration.
Oh yeah, and I would say about 90% of the houses are better off to be vacant when they're being sold,
minimum vacant.
looked at for sale, than with people's stuff in it. I
And
mean,
it
there
depends, yeah.
there
I
are
think it
some that are
depends.
really put together, and like these are staged perfectly, but it's got to really be staged perfectly to have that difference. Besides, I mean, I'd rather just walk in something empty than walk into something that you see someone just slept in their bed and they got something on, they got just stuff all over
Totally.
the
Yeah.
place.
Totally feel that way too.
I think the biggest takeaway from the survey for me is, at the end of the day, it's just all about what that says is your average consumer is willing to look at an additional option outside of listing their house traditionally on the open market. Yeah. And that's something that we as realtors in the industry, it's not our decision. Let's get down to exactly what that consumer wants, give them the options and let them choose. And that's where the advisement comes into play. That's where the fiduciary comes into play. And that should be a good feeling, right? When you do that and you're given the options and they choose whether it's the cash offer or to list traditionally. And that's the service that you provided them. They chose, and everyone's happy.
Agreed. And I think one of the reasons I was fascinated with Opendoor and I am excited by it is it truly is giving the consumer an easy experience. I mean, like, it doesn't get much easier to sell your house than entering your address, uploading a few photos, doing a walkthrough with a representative, and then getting a cash offer. I mean, it's so easy. And I think that it's kind of a missing component, but I want to talk about their stock because they are struggling. And I know all real estate stocks are depressed at the moment, but
Everything's depressed right now.
everything is depressed right now. Real estate especially, right? So here's the reality though. They're trading at $113 today, right now. Really super low. They're down 5% just today. Here's the other thing though. At what point does Opendoor either get acquired or go bankrupt? Because I'm looking at this. They have about 95 cents a share of runway.
Wow.
So
Yikes.
what are they going to do? They're running out of cash. Their stock isn't going up.
Come on, homeowners.
Like what? I mean, they acquire 15,000 homes, but clearly operationally.
Oh, it just went down to,
Yeah.
As we're
from
sitting here.
Just went down.
114, 1.1.
Maybe, was it us talking about it?
It just went down a little bit. No, but seriously though, like, here's the reality. Like, their stock does not look good. They were, I think at the height, $1 billion, multiple $1 billion company. And now they're,
When it comes down to it, it's
market cap
very,
is
very
800
hard
million.
to do what they do.
yes.
Like they're trying to thread the needle on what a house is worth, on the open market, and trying to buy it as close to home or value as possible. But we're saying it's 15%. You're giving up 15% of your property right away by not having it vacant, right? So and a service fee. So almost.
So do you
20%.
think that this is telling for the model, or do you think that it's
I
just
think
that they couldn't figure it out?
It sells our model because our model works a lot better than that because we.
And I understand that,
Yeah.
and not to plug like what we do, because
I don't know. I think, yeah.
I'm just curious. Like, I think that they solve a problem in the marketplace,
Yes, they do.
and I mean, and we don't. I don't even need to talk about
15,000
OfferPad.
homes.
OfferPad's even worse. They've already done a stock split. Did they do a 20 to? Do they do a 20-1 split?
15 to 1. I think.
Okay, what they massively split their stock so that they weren't delisted, and now I just see Opendoor. I mean, if they fall under $1, it's not good.
I think that it's a little bit of the market of the moment
Yeah.
because, when stuff was, super hot, so to speak, and they were making these crazy offers, seemed like they were turning profit pretty good because you could, whatever you listed for, you got more. And then they put themselves, they got overzealous, right?
Yep.
Which is what happened to everybody. They acquired too much too quickly. The market turned a lot quicker than I think anybody anticipated. And the came, and it probably takes a long time to recover from it. I think that if, we had the kind of funds that they did, the better way to go about it would be to do a little bit less transactions and put more risk assessment in place to protect yourself, right? Because we are dealing with real estate. There's been a lot more uncertainty these last couple years, right? Quarter to quarter, it's kind of like, what are we going to anticipate? Now we're seeing more listings, buyers really hasn't, demand really hasn't gone up. And so therefore you have to be super fluid and you just go with the market of the moment. And I think that their business model was so set in stone that, they need to look at that a little bit. I think they can recover. I think they'll be fine.
You do.
Mm-hmm.
You do. So you're not thinking like there's going to be like a Zillow acquisition of Opendoor?
Well, I don't know what's going to happen with them, but I don't think Opendoor or their business model is going anywhere.
Yeah.
I think they paved the way. They're the OGs, and they're going to be around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you have it. Thank you for watching the podcast today. If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button and like the video so you can see our videos more often.
Thanks for tuning in.